perspective. We've seen it twice now from Oxygen and from Team Liquid. But guess what? Match 3 is ready. The dropship is flying across Storm Point. Last game on Storm Point. Onsit, Gaskin, take the action.
Let's get it. Let's get into this game. Dan, you should be fully refreshed now after your 8-second break. Let's talk about this next game, because we have seen how the points have been distributed, and G2 is the team we really should be focusing on, right? Yes, we just saw a kind of monumental Phoenix from the Ashes type performance from Team Liquid winning that previous game, but when we look at that leaderboards, it's G2 have been picking up placement and KP to put them top of the pile.
Yeah, I thought you called it. I thought I heard you say it.
What's impressive is just how well G2 have been fighting. Not just as a team, but also the individual skill that we're seeing on display. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less, right? That's what G2 have always been so successful with, is some of their gun skill, but the fact that they were able to make their way from barometer, or as I used to call it, barometer, they have been able to transfer across the map so successfully. Yes, okay, they didn't pick up the victory in either of those games, but they did get a lot of KP.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real here. We called it C-Note K for long enough as well. God, this, the language is tough for everybody. It's a C-Note, we've learned. A barometer sounds like something that's it's an instrument used to measure the size of a wheelbarrow, by the way. We'll have to see if that is actually true. Someone maybe in the chat can let me know. But Team Liquid, let's see what you got once again. A great performance to them in game number 2. And I love, one of my favorite things is when you see a little bit of poetry in these games, right? Poetry in esports, and Fun being the first player down, hits the last shot to win the game. It makes me happy, Dan. Makes my heart warm.
It really is nice that a player who probably thought their game was over, right? Done, dusted, they're out the game, probably just stressing, thinking the team is going to be out, and then later you get to be the one who finish things off. Yeah, that's going to be a nice feeling as an individual. But I think Team Liquid will look at that game and the success that they just had. They'll be thanking their lucky stars and their lucky charms, whatever you want to thank, the fact that they got out of that fight. But it was the decision-making to kind of play it in the way, to stall in the way they did, which ended up saving them, to be honest. That castle wall just on that one doorway to prevent the team pushing them, to prevent Optic from having that angle, it all adds up to the way they were able to win that game after the early fight they had.
Well, Team Liquid this time, a little bit more of a quiet start to the game for them, and as they try and ping the spot that they want to play, and as they try and kind of decide how they want to approach this game, it'll be a little bit difficult for them to force their way into the god spot, so to speak, inside of the center zone, due to the fact of where this zone is going to be pulling. But for the team who's currently top of the leaderboards, G2, this is a great zone for them over at Barometer. Like you mentioned, we might be going a little bit further south, so to speak, and we'll have to see if Shipfall is where we end up kind of pulling towards. But for G2, they haven't got a lot of distance to go. And the great thing about being set up at Barometer as well, with the zone the way it is you have such extreme height that all these teams that are going to be rotating in, you're going to be able to level up those Evo shields so easily before you make a last assault in that zone.
Now, I will say we've messed up Barometer, we've messed up Cenote K, but we do have to be careful with Shipfall as Englishman, because it very easily can sound like something else.
That's what we call a career ender.
I myself have been very close, it would seem at times. People have been like, have you been saying that word? No, I haven't. I've been saying ship with a P at the end, I promise you. But yeah, this is going to be an ending where those teams who are dropping at the south side of the map are going to be sitting pretty for quite some time. Those who are on the northern side, this is going to be such a struggle for them. You've got to get quite far across the map before you eventually maybe go for a Valkyrie to get even further. As I say it, it happens. Dark Zero are going to be making their way now with the Valkyrie ultimate.
Yeah, just outside of Antenna at the moment. They're just to the northeast of Antenna. They'll be flying right over the top of it. Team Liquid will be waving at them, as at the moment the sky is getting a little bit congested. Different areas of the map, of course. But we are going to see Complexity now move towards Shipfall. They're going to be trying to get on the back side of it, the low ground, and maybe thinking about that zone pulling right down towards the south. And if it does, they're going to be in a really good position to fight in last quite some time in this end zone. However, you can see a little bit of information being collected means there's multiple teams already in the area, but Complexity find a soft landing for now. Question is, can they stabilize? Can they get those heals off? And have they got the inventory as well to survive the long game too? You can see 14 cells in the hands of Monsoon is certainly going to help, but that gen from Watson is also going to be vital for them surviving that long game.
Yeah, they're going to be sitting pretty for quite some time. Complexity, I think they'll be very happy with that rotation. I guess it's time we could talk about those teams who haven't really popped off yet, and maybe we were expecting them to. Optic have been relatively quiet, you know, an early game fight that they lost previously, and also not the best of game ones either, even though they did feature in kind of the final circle. Are we going to see a little bit more from them in game number 3, or is World's Edge going to maybe treat them a little bit better? Some teams just perform worse on Storm Point, but I would expect more from Optic Gaming, to be honest, with how good they are in these team fights, but maybe the meta not quite quite working in their favor at the moment, but I'm pretty sure they will adjust very quickly as we get further into these games.
Yeah, it's the great thing, again, about a constantly evolving metagame, right? With buffs and changes, and not only to weapons, but also legends, and how people try and, you know, combat each other, counteract the successes of other teams, is that you are going to see teams have these, you know, these peaks and these troughs in their performances, in their form, so to speak, as they have to adjust to how the lobby now approaches things. And even though it's only 2 games, and don't get me wrong, Optic still an absolute powerhouse team, and 2 games of Apex not quite going your way is not something that anyone should be ashamed of course. They still will have something to think about here with 4 games to go, and especially with 1 game here left on Storm Point. It hasn't been the best of performances, like you mentioned, but if anyone could do it, Optic, they've dropped 20-point games before, and it wouldn't surprise me to see them do it again here in Game 3.
And that would go against, you know, the stats that we've really seen so far in Pro League. We haven't seen North American teams get those big games. Instead, it's been everyone kind of sharing the spoils when it comes to kills. Very different in the EMEA region, where we were seeing the likes of Ascend today absolutely pop off and destroy the entire lobby and really mopping up those points. It was very close in kind of the mid-table. However, it is kind of close across the whole board here in North America, because everyone is still finding a way of claiming points even in their worst games. And what I mean by worst games is like the Circle not really playing their way, or they have a poor rotation, or they find themselves getting challenged early in the drop spot. A variety of things that can really influence your finish to a game, and it's about making the best situation out of a bad one, really, and that's where we're going to see the teams progress. You know, those 9 squads who can get out of the North American region into playoffs, it's going to be so tough, because it could be 1 week.
Every time you say it out loud, it's just like...
It's not enough. It feels like it's not enough with how many good teams we see, but some teams, some of the best teams in the world, will not feature because they don't get into that top 9. And, you know, it could come down to a couple of bad matches, even though, you know, 2 matches doesn't seem that much, but imagine if you miss out on a playoff spot because you are 2 points behind someone.
Bowser. Oh, my goodness. He's going to be safe. Of course, he was never going to be a real problem for him, but I was a little bit worried that it was going to be one of those awkward moments where you go down to zone. A couple of meds are going to be crafted by Rack Attack here to make sure they got the med kit, so that if Bowser does go down, he's going to be able to get those heals back and get those white meds popped. If the Storm does take another victim. We've seen so many victims over the years to the Storm. Don't trust me, you're not the first one to go down to it. I'm sure there's going to be thousands more of us that do so. But looking at where the zone does go down, we are heading down towards Shipfall. Team Liquid have actually taken the very southeastern side of Shipfall, where Complexity were inside it. They've moved up a little bit inside of the actual building itself, inside of the Shipfall, so to speak. And it will mean that Team Liquid will be in a pretty good position to approach this end game. Rakinishu, though, he's going to have to pop that bobble at the moment. Unfortunately for him, he's on an island, and me and Jimmy is not the place to be, but he manages to hit the wiggle as he gets the hips of Gibby moving and survives for now.
Yeah, there was a lot of wiggling that happened, but just about gets round the corner, and now you can reassess how you want to take this fight. Bowser does get some good shots and also should be able to bat up, but has to second guess himself. Nathan goes down. NRG are the team on the other side. They're managing to get him up, but as it happens, Sweet also falls. So it is going to be a 2 versus 3, and oh, unfortunately, the timing is not there. They do not get the player up. Rack Attack stay alive, and maybe the hips don't lie on Gibby, because it means that NRG go down in 20th.
NRG, another team who has had a very slow start today, and week 1 wasn't great for them either. So the fact that NRG now, after 3 games, are certainly not going to be involved in our end game, like you mentioned, it's game after game, and games, unfortunately, they only go downwards. You don't get more opportunities to play here in the Apex Legends Global Series, so 3 games in a row for them having disappointing performances is not a good sign for NRG here. They're going to have to bounce back on World's Edge, otherwise they're going to have some work to do for sure. But Rack Attack, what looked like a perilous situation for them, as Rakinishu kind of got caught off guard. He managed to survive, get that bubble down for just long enough for his teammates to get in position to get that cover fire down. He escaped, and then NRG overextend, give that first knock away. And from there, Rack Attack do not make mistakes, but a worrying sign here for NRG.
So elsewhere in the map, as we go down towards Shipfall, it was bots who dropped at Shipfall, by the way. It was Stompies and the rest of the crew who will be in arguably one of the best positions just from where they were able to set up. But it's always the question, did you get enough loot? Right? When that circle pulls so heavily into your area, into your drop spot, have you done enough to claim all of the kind of loot in that area before other teams arrive? Because when it is such a heavy pool like this, we see such quick rotations, we see so many teams try and join others. Elsewhere, FaZe are going to be moving very quickly from their position previously on the east side of the map, and they have found a little home under the bridge here.
On a home, but it's a risky play here from FaZe. They're forced a bubble already. There's going to be a team firing down from them on height, and it's going to be CLG, I think, who are trying to hold out FaZe here underneath that bridge, or certainly overlooking where this fight is going down. So FaZe, another team, we don't expect them to kind of set the world alight immediately. They said that themselves, but 2 games where they haven't put a huge amount of points on the board, much like NRG, game 3 needs to change for them here.
Yeah, I think even though we talked about FaZe a lot in the early game and, you know, the successes that these players have had on other teams and how good they are individually, it's inevitable you're going to have a shaky start when you are a new forming team. Sometimes you get that honeymoon period where everything clicks together, but that's not always the case. You are sometimes going to have slow starts, but the Charge Rifle doing what the Charge Rifle does best, just beaming players out of the sky, as it looks like FaZe have stabilized here like trolls under the bridge.
Yeah, it was a scary moment for them. I'm going to say that did not look like a comfortable drop, but they made it work. And that, again, is the beauty of having Gibraltar. Maybe this is why it did work, because all of a sudden, the fighting has broken out nearby, and it's going to be Oxygen who are moving in. A couple of knocks on either side at the moment. Kubsky is going to be last alive here. And with just a slither of help, he's going to have to clutch up. Rack Attack get eliminated. But Oxygen, can they survive here? Can they stabilize? No, they cannot. They will be eliminated as well. And who is the team coming in to sweep? The last piece is away. It's going to be G2. Our leaders, after 2 games, pick up yet more points, this time in the form of KP.
Yeah, from one bridge to another, but this bridge had a little bit more action than the previous one. And G2, just as they did it in the game before, when they crossed this bridge, they found so much KP, they found so much success, but they still have a ways to go to get into the circle. And actually, it might be the next bridge they get to where they have to face FaZe as their next challenge. But it looks like they're going to try and hold out a couple of teams here at Barometer first, just to see what they can do in terms of KP gathering.
I love this from G2 as well. They actually left Barometer. Remember, this is where they dropped. They're trying to just hunt for kills on the edge. They are feeling confident. They are feeling good. And with that black hole going in and a couple of Arc Stars alongside it, you wonder if that's going to create enough space for them to move back in to their original home and restabilize here. It looks like they will be able to. Chaotic taken down to around 20 HP is going to have to take to the skies to make sure that he can get that battery down. We'll be able to do so. So G2 stabilized for now. With 30 seconds left, they've got to turn their attention forward instead of back.
And with all the noise that's being made here, it's starting to attract other teams. Optic are in the vicinity, CLG and FaZe also in the vicinity, but CLG currently leaving. That CLG firing themselves across the map right now, by the way, just past FaZe. So FaZe are going to be there, and FaZe actually do get that knock. Albrelelli with the charge rifle from the cannon will able to get the knock, but I don't think they'll be able to clean it up, unfortunately, just because it was such a distance that CLG had traveled thanks to that cannon.
Well, FaZe survive, they stabilize, but we've just seen G2 move ahead of them, and this is going to be a really tough move for them. I wonder if it's going to be a case of trying to force a fight, or maybe it's going to be down to Slurpee to find them somewhere to play. SSG now inside of a fight, and look at this fort that has been put down inside here, but the fort is not good enough. It cannot hold back Space Station, and having just wiped Team Smiley, the most impressive thing is the fact they come out of it so healthy, Dan. 2 players pretty much not even have those white HP points knocked away at.
Yeah, that was like Fort Worth. You just need a plane ticket and you'll be let in. It's not a case of any sort of proper fort that has been built elsewhere, a fortress, as it were. Speaking back on FaZe and their movement, they don't necessarily have to go the same way as G2. They could cross the water, as we talk about plane tickets. Instead, they can just take maybe a boat across, and they might find themselves on the east side of the map and within that circle. So we'll see a little bit later whether they do successfully do that. But certainly a lot of teams now trying to make their way into this next circle. G2 are going to pay the toll. They're going to go across the bridge, and they're going to take the fight.
They're going to have to take the fight as well. Just a little note as well. A little trade went down. You see Optic Gaming eliminated. Dark Zero trying to hold out G2. But here come G2 again. Sharky's trying to pop a barrier. He's not going to have time to do so. Zero left on his own. And G2 are eliminated as Dark Zero holds strong. But unfortunately for Dark Zero, here comes FaZe. Snipe Down cleans up the pieces, and FaZe not only surviving now, but starting to thrive as well in the lobby.
Yeah, so FaZe didn't take that same route as G2. They went across the water, but then they heard the action, they saw the knocks happening, and they decided to get involved and just change their trajectory ever so slightly so they could pick up some KP. And now they're on the kind of northern side of this circle where they will have to take this fight with the team in front of them. Otherwise, they are going to find themselves in a very nasty rotation indeed, where they probably have to take a risky Valkyrie play. But if they can win this engagement that's in front of them, if they can get a knock here and beat this team, they would be the last team on this northern side. But it's certainly not going to be an easy fight, that's for sure.
It's not going to be an easy fight, but when you get so much poke damage done as Luminosity go down in the kill feed as well, then you have the opportunity to push up. You have the opportunity to push. And you can see Albrelele also has his ultimate available on Gibraltar. So the defensive bombardment can come down to create some space if needed. But instead, it looks like they may be making a late rotation down to the south here. This could be brilliant from FaZe.
They can actually go all the way around this rock. There is no other team on this eastern side of the circle. So FaZe have a purely clean rotation down into the next circle. The only worry would be CLG, who are in the final circle. The only team in the final circle. FaZe do have to go all the way around this rock, though, and they do have to put themselves in a vulnerable position where CLG will definitely be able to see them. But if FaZe can just sneak in, if they can manage to maybe distract CLG, or if CLG are having their focus on another team that's on the western side of the circle, then perhaps FaZe do have a chance.
Well, FaZe have the utility as well. I mentioned how Albrelele has the defensive bombardment. What he can do is just throw that on top to make sure that the attention is taken away. You can see that now CLG trying to turn their attentions, having spotted out FaZe here, to keeping them out. But Slurpee is going to have that G7 scout poking away at some damage, and as those shield cells are popped, that is seconds that can be used by FaZe here to move forward. Instead, it looks like it might be a Valkyrie ultimate as the play call. First attempt will fall. We're down to just 10 as FaZe now make a risky play to try and find somewhere to call home.
Yeah, they may have been the only team on the west side. Sorry, my compass was backwards, but they were being watched. They can find an angle here. They can find a spot. They've just got to hope no one else is going to try and take it off them quickly, because everyone now moving into this circle. You can see players falling like flies. Sentinels just lost one. Madness also just gone down as well. 10 teams remain, but they are very weak teams. There's a couple of twos featuring as Sentinels out in 10th place.
And Jibby still can be a factor here. Not only can he hold teams out who are trying to move in, as you mentioned, Sentinels have gone down, but they also have that bubble available. If everyone tries to move in and they come under too much damage, then they can get that bubble down. They can get the reset, unless they get Seer-Queued, of course, which is going to stop the bubble being as effective as it used to be, as the heals will be stopped. But for now, FaZe looks strong. SSG, they're the team who are above them at the moment. As CLG find themselves inside of the building now, with two teams around the perimeter. A tough situation for all of these teams, but SSG have managed to take the height, which is the most important thing here.
There is a lot to process for the FaZe roster at the moment. There's Space Station above them. There are several teams also to their east that they have to worry about at the same time. And look where that circle's going. Look at the amount of space that's playable here. So much of it is taken up by that rock. So you've got two teams that are on the kind of far west side of this circle. You've got about 4 teams that are on the east side. So you're best off being on the west at the moment, but at the same time, all it takes is one team to get a little bit too aggressive, and carnage suddenly will unfold in front of your very eyes, because everyone will be trying to pick up that KP. It is another circle where no one is in the best position right now, really. There is no guaranteed win from any of these spots everyone's currently holding.
You can see the FaZe were trying to poke, they're trying to prod. The only problem for them is they don't know that Zanayo has that Kraber in his hands. One shot here, and FaZe could be toast. Of course, CLG still existing next to them as well. So everyone is being extremely cautious on the fights that they take, on the damage that they do, knowing they might leave themselves vulnerable to another team within the area. Complexity now, who made that early rotation down to Shipfall. They're involved in a 3v3 fight now themselves. Luxford is trying to pop some shield cells to see if he can be a part of this fight, but at the moment, Complexity getting deleted. Monsoon falls. Complexity are out.
Complexity out. 100 Thieves just took to the skies, as well as Guard, to try and land center circle here. I believe that CLG may be able to play inside the building. Slept on it down to just 1. They get wiped out in 7th position. Now FaZe getting involved in the fight, but it looks like they're going to be wiped out as well. And suddenly we're down to what? Just 5 squads just like that.
CLG, they hold the ground. 100 Thieves, they're still involved as well. Actually, excuse me, they've just been eliminated. The Guard eliminated. And now we have our final 3 teams. It's SSG, it's CLG, and it's Team Liquid, who are looking to go back-to-back here on Storm Point. They have been arguably the best Storm Point team in the world in recent times, and once again they are involved in this final fight and looking to add another win to their tally.
And when I first saw the map overhead, I didn't realize CLG could play the inside of the building still as this circle closes. Look at how much space there is in the building they can work with. Space Station just above them, they held the top, they held strong because the fights happened elsewhere. Unfortunately, Liquid in complete open space at the moment, but teams do have to come to them. So it's really difficult to try and analyze who's in the best spot right now. Space Station have the high ground, but they've got a team below them. CLG are in a difficult position where they could very much be watched when they come out of the doorways here. Liquid just have to try and take as little fire as possible. If they can get behind a little rock, if they can maybe distract SSG in a way that SSG focus CLG, this could be a Liquid back-to-back, as you say. It's all going to come down to kind of who makes that play first and who gets the first knock.
Might have been some Skynades coming in or attempted from CLG. The missile swarm comes in. You can see that Sano's desperate to hold the line here with his Kraber. Doesn't want to be taken out. The scope also doesn't want to be taken out of the game, but Space Station need him to hit a shot here onto one of these Team Liquid members if they want to be in a position to win this game. The zone is closing fastest on both CLG and SSG, so you get the feeling that Team Liquid, they're in the best spot, and CLG know this. They make their play.
CLG making their way over, have the bubble to work with. SSG also will be able to watch from the heavens, as it were, but also need to move because of that circle as well. And now CLG, they're full sending it.
Yeah, they're full sending it, but they're just running into a wall of bullets. And it's Dropped who is going to get the kills here and should be able to finish them off. 3 squads still remaining. The last player survives for now, but the caustic gas is now a problem for SSG. All this means is that Team Liquid move in once again as the third party, clean up the pieces. The Prowler sings the final verse of the song, and Liquid go back to back.
And they played that final circle so well, did Liquid. They survived to a point where they didn't succumb to the pressure that Space Station were putting down at the very start. Space Station had nades, Space Station had damage, Space Station had angles,